Hi, my name is Dr. Kit Nelson. I was looking generally about thinking about changing kind of career direction, in part because my life had really become about dealing with governments, which is fun at some level and not so fun at others. And I realized that more and more of my time was spent doing paperwork and not interacting with students or really doing the field work that I wanted to do. And so I started thinking about a move, and one of my friends sent me the job posting for NOCA. And I had thought, I'd never really thought about teaching high school, ever. Because I didn't know, I know that there's certain challenges and that it's a different kind of thing than what I've been doing. And so I looked at the job posting and it sounded really intriguing because of this kind of broad-based understanding that they want the students to walk away with. And I thought, well, that's kind of what I do. I do a little bit of science, but I also bring in humanities and math and all these different aspects. So I applied and still not really thinking about really doing this. And I came in for the interview, and the people that they had around the table were artists and academic faculty and these really dynamic people that were thinking about education in a different way, and in a way that I had seen happen in the field but never seen happen in the classroom. And so this idea of whole four-field approach, of really digging into topics and doing so in a deep way, not just memorize this and move on, which is kind of what I thought high school was, and certainly how I experienced high school. And so suddenly I thought, wow, you could really think about deep topics. You could look at how light works in science, in math, in the humanities, and tie it all together. And that really drew me in. That and the other faculty were so dynamic. They were all doing interesting things and publishing and working outside, having other kind of questions that they were addressing outside the classroom, which I also thought, how dynamic, right, to be around these people who are drawing in all of their interests and bringing it into the classroom. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I saw myself adding to the NOCA faculty. I approach science with a very hands-on way, and in part that's because that's how I know science, that's how I do science. And so it's always answering a question, and sometimes that question isn't in science. Sometimes it's about how cultures work, or how economies function, or well, usually those big questions, right? And so science to me is answering some big questions. And so it's not about memorizing calculations or getting tied up in the minutia, when really we're using science for some other thing. And so in the classroom, we put science in motion. So we work through the problems, we try and understand the questions at the basic level, and then we do it. So it's, again, making those links between pieces and parts of science so that it makes sense at the big picture. I went to graduate school at Southern Methodist University, got my PhD, and have been doing archaeology since in different ways. So I've worked on projects in Egypt and directed projects there, and then in Peru and the American Southwest. So most of it's been field time. I've spent a lot of time in the field. But then I was working at Tulane, basically running these projects and then teaching. And so I was half-time doing both, and really most of the time doing paperwork associated with the field work, which I enjoyed. Loved doing it, loved being with the students, but realized that's the part I loved the most, was being with the students. And so I thought, how can I shift that over? How can I have the things I love the most and then still do the archaeology, still have this kind of dual life? And so this really fit it perfectly.